Welcome to the Mr. Shades show. This is Punisher month, and the first thing we're going to be looking at is the Punisher film from 1989. This is starring Dolph Lundgren as the titular Punisher, and this is directed by Mark Goldblatt. And now I looked into Mark Goldblatt. I think he's only ever directed two, maybe three movies, this being one of them. He was mostly an editor for a lot of big movies. Halloween 2, I noticed. There was True Lies, Enter the Dragon, or Enter the Ninja, a bunch of others. Anyway, we're talking about his Punisher movie. So first we're going to talk about the plot. Plot of this one, I guess, is it has this cold opening with an old American gangster getting out of prison after being acquitted of the murder of Frank Castle's family. I guess there was something they couldn't prove. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, as soon as this guy gets home, he's like, let's have a party. Everybody check the house. I don't know why they're checking the house. There was no indication of them checking the house. It was just the first line he says when they get to the house. Hey, let's have a party. You go check the house. And it's like, wait, what? Why? You didn't hear any noise. You didn't, like, what? Anyway, so the Punisher kills them all, blowing up the house in a fantastic explosion. And there's it kind of sets the goofiness of the movie when our old American gangster guy walks out with this Punisher knife in his back, and then you see, like, in silhouette with all this fire and shit behind him, our Punisher, you see Dolph Lundgren. I'm just gonna call him Dolph Lundgren because he's anyway. So you see Dolph, and he's standing there, and then he just kind of walks away, and then, like, as soon as he walks out of the door frame, everything, the rest of the house just blows up. And then it cuts to another American gangster saying, hey, we got to get all the families together. We got to do this. So everybody is together. No more individual families. We're going to run the city. It's going to be great. And so he's trying to unify all the crime families under one roof and one name. So not exactly a bad hook for a Punisher movie. Or even a Punisher story in and of itself. Here, the problem is that could have been the movie itself, and that would have been just fine. But the moment they go to, like, do this big drug deal that would have started the unification of all these families, basically the Yakuza show up, and the Punisher just found out about it through a weird side character that is an homeless theater actor that for reasons unexplained, just speaks in rhyme. They don't address it. Nobody says anything about it. He just speaks in rhyme. Whatever. Anyway, so they find out about this drug deal going down on the pier. The Yakuza show up, blow everybody up, start killing people. Punisher's there killing people, so it just turns into this big action scene with everybody just running around, shooting each other, and it's just a little much. Just a little too much going on in one scene, and that's kind of how all the action scenes are. A lot of people running around, a lot of things happening, and they kind of go on forever. And as an action movie fan, it's almost tiring at some points. And so moving on, then the Yakuza lady, she's the main villain of this movie, who also has a main henchwoman, so that's kind of interesting to note, I think, for movies at the time having female antagonists, and a good one too. I actually really like her. She's intimidating, she's confident. She's like the best part of the movie up until the end, and we'll get there. Anyway, so as the movie goes on, she intimidates all these the American crime families. And she's like, oh, yeah, you guys come to this meeting if you want, and if you want to see your children again or something. Because she previously there was a child kidnapping montage in this movie. So that's how she's trying to force the hand of all the crime families to work for the Yakuza. And that becomes the main driving force of the film, is these kids. So anyway, the meeting happens. And then she just kills all the heads of the crime families, and everyone's like, oh shit, I guess we better bow, except for one guy. One guy didn't go to the meeting, and he doesn't want anything to do with the Yakuza, and he kind of becomes another antagonist. And then once Punisher got wind of the kids being missing, he randomly finds this club gambling thing and shoots it up in actually probably the cheesiest scene in the whole movie, where he jumps through the roof, glass roof, just starts mowing all the casino pieces down, like all the gambling machines, just anybody who manages to catch a bullet with an M60 black M60 machine gun. So it's kind of cool, but it's really stupid too, because there's one point where a guy runs up, and instead of doing it in one cut where Punisher just kind of kicks him or something, it cuts to Dolph Lundgren's foot jutting out, and then it cuts to the guy getting kicked in the face, and it cuts back. So I'm wondering if they couldn't do it all in one shot and make it look good, because a lot of these fight scenes are kind of cut to death in certain parts, so it's kind of weird like that. So then he says, and then we get great line delivery by Dolph Lundgren anyway, because he has that very natural grizzly growl kind of voice, but in this movie he plays it up for some reason. And every time he speaks, this moves, this part of his mouth moves, and then there's no action on the eyebrows, and especially in the eyes. His eyes are so dead in this movie. It's actually hilarious. He's trying to act all intimidating by going like this and talking trying to talk down to people kind of by looking up and stuff, and kind of puts on the low voice, and it's just, dude, you're Dolph Lundgren. You're already intimidating. You don't have to act intimidating, because when you do, you look stupid, and he really does. And every line delivery is like that. The chin kind of up, kind of jutted forward, and just awful. So also we learn that there's some good side characters in here. They're actually the best parts of the movie. There's Black Cop, or Black Detective, who originally trained Frank Castle as a policeman and then kind of retired, and then once the Punisher's thing started happening, this Black Cop guy started hunting down the Punisher, and he believed it was Frank Castle. So it was kind of that was the most interesting part of the movie, was his character and what goes on there. So basically all these elements lead to a mid-action scene where Punisher breaks most of the kids out except for the son of the main American crime boss. So then the crime boss as Punisher saves these kids, he gets arrested, and then you get a nice little back and forth, which I actually really like, between our Black Cop and Punisher. It's pretty nice, and that's probably the most emotional scene in the movie, and it's the best acted, and it's still not the best. So as the movie from there, Punisher is being transferred, and of course the American crime gangsters figured out how he was being transferred, and they capture him, and then they have to say, oh, if you don't, we're going to kill your Black Cop friend if you don't help me get my son back from the Yakuza. And it's you're really just kidnapping Punisher to tell him to go do something he probably would have done anyway. It's not that hard to do. So anyway, yeah. So they get there. So they go to the building that the Yakuza are using. There's no setup for it, really. It's just they're kind of there. You see a couple scenes inside, but there's never any establishing shot of it. So it's just skyscraper filled with bad guys. Okay, well, fine. So the finale kind of starts, and all our characters get involved in some form or another. The opening action scene for the finale is kind of hilarious, because earlier in the movie they set up these guys training in this room for a random reason. You come out of the elevator, it opens up to this wide room where a bunch of people are training with kendo sticks and stuff like that, for samurai swords and stuff. And then they come up, and then they actually have samurai swords waiting for the Punisher and our crime guy. They just fucking mow everybody down. It's actually kind of hilarious because there's no like big punch up there yet. It's just brrr, everybody goes down. It's really hilarious, and I kind of love that scene. But then it gets stupider and stupider from there. There's one like they rigged the power box to explode so it would turn out the lights. So as they're walking around, the lights go out. And as soon as they see like a bunch of guys with guns, the lights go out, and then our guys with guns start shooting down the hallway. Mind you, this hallway is very narrow and made of that Japanese paper door stuff that you see. I don't really know the actual term for it, but it's the paper doors. And then this is so stupid. The guys are standing in the hallway. Behind the paper doors are Punisher and our American guy standing at the exact same point, and they start shooting into the hallway, killing all the guys in the hallway. And I'm thinking, that's a lot of bullets for like 3 dudes. Wouldn't you guys have shot each other and killed each other? Fine, whatever. They're not thinking that hard. So they keep going with this. They prowl about, and then this is where the lighting is also red now for some reason, because that's always a thing when power goes out. The safety lights are red, even though I've never seen that happen before in actual, like, real life. So anyway, then we actually get a kind of fun fight scene that isn't actually cut to death between Punisher and 2 random henchmen. They were hiding in, like, suits of armor. So, like, Punisher walks into this room, kind of goes to leave, and then 2 guys were standing by the door in like armor and stuff, disguised, and then they start fighting like it's some kind of clever Scooby-Doo fucking thing, and they end up having a pretty interesting fight. It was kind of exciting to watch, as exciting as it was for this movie anyway. So then he escapes, and then you get to the final. Then we cut back to our a crime boss guy, and he's going through killing people until he catches the sight of the main Yakuza lady, who is now dressed as a geisha for some reason. Not explained at all. Before the attack, she's dressed as a geisha, and it's like she's doing like a ceremonial dance or something, and it doesn't like explain why. She's just doing it for the sake of the visual, I think. So it's and even when before she was wearing like business suits and business dresses and stuff like that, so it's like kind of random in a way. So then they kind of start fighting a little bit, and then it cuts back to Punisher fighting the main henchwoman, who has the weirdest gimmick I've ever seen for a henchman or woman. You know, in action movies, the main henchman usually has some kind of gimmick, like in James Bond, Oddjob with the hat, or Jaws with his teeth. You know what I mean, right? Or they always have some kind of quirk. This woman's quirk is that she wears earrings that are like this big, and she pulls them off, and they're little throwing knives. She uses them once in the movie to like pin a guy like this against the wall. I'm seeing that. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, fine, whatever. And then, she like pulls them off, and like when like Punisher's got her by the throat or something, she goes like this and pulls him off and cuts his hands or something. And it's like, and then they just disappear. They're gone. Like she goes like this, or she pulls them off and goes like that, cutting Punisher's hands, and then they're gone. They continue to fight till Punisher gets the upper hand, breaks her neck. I mean, and she was a mute throughout the whole movie, so it's not even like she was a real character. Could have been anybody doing this, but I guess they needed someone, and they wanted that for a quirk, I guess. But she has no lines in the movie at all. It's really weird. There was also a point where she was doing gymnastics. It's like, this movie just has visuals for the sake of visuals. Like, oh, it's really annoying in that regard. So then anyway, we get to back to the standoff, and she has the main Yakuza bad girl lady has the crime boss's son at the throat with a knife, right? And she's like, get on your knees, put the gun in your mouth, because she has a weird obsession with people blowing their brains out with gun, not like this, but like directly in the mouth and up and stuff, and it's so weird. And then as soon as he like goes to like he clicks the hammer back, Punisher bursts through the wall, throwing a knife, killing her instantly, and it's like like it was a really tense scene, and then all of a sudden, bam! It's like, wait, what? I'm sorry, excuse me. So then the movie continues on. Our main bad guy kind of has a fight with Punisher, and they kind of go back and forth at it. And then they're wrestling for this gun at one point, and Punisher just shoots him, and he's like wearing a ballistic vest, and it's like that was kind of nice because they set it up earlier that he was wearing one. They showed him taking a couple shots before him being all right with it, but then they start wrestling, and it's like kind of an awkward shot where you see Punisher on the ground, and our guy on top of him, like pinning him down or something, and then you hear a gunshot. And then the guy like staggers off of Punisher, reaches in behind the ballistic vest with a hand like this, and then he like pulls it out and he's bleeding. And it's like they didn't really show him like shove the gun behind the vest or anything. It's just it happens. Maybe like it could have been done a lot better. I'm saying. And then so they're fighting all in front of this kid's son, or like this dude's kid. And then the father dies, and then Punisher has that really weird, that moment, like, that typical moment where it's like, the kid's like, I'm gonna kill you because you killed my dad. And then he, like, sits down, puts the gun to his forehead and goes, do it. And the kid doesn't. Like, it's been done before. I've seen it done better. And then the Punisher has a line like, you're a good kid, or you're a good boy, Tommy. Grow up to be a good man, or I'll be waiting. And then he escapes, and then our black cop comes in with a bunch of other police officers and like, Jesus, what happened here? And there's like dead bodies and blood and everywhere, and just rampant destruction in this tower. And then somehow Frank Castle escapes. They don't really show it. They show like a blood trail, and our black cop follows it out to the roof, and then he starts yelling Frank out into like the sunset of New York. It's kind of funny because like they don't show him escape or anything, or how he like got off the building. It just cuts into the sewers again, where Punisher's living throughout the movie. And then you get the weirdest shot ever. Punisher is meditating, like with like his knees bent and stuff, and he's like meditating, sitting up straight, but he's also like covered in dirt and oil, and it's so weird. And he's doing it naked too, so it comes up from behind him, and you just see Dolph Lundgren's ass completely out. And it's just, that's the final shot of the movie, is them panning up to the back of Dolph Lundgren's nude body, fade to black, credits come up. I'm gonna have to that it's definitely enjoyable to watch. It's not terrible, but the dialogue's pretty generic throughout, so it's a little boring. There's almost too much plot ideas to really make coherent sense out of it, because there was two really good storylines here that could have worked, and they could have been two movies, or they could have been two separate movies, and they would have been better if they were just two separate movies, because each idea is kind of underdeveloped and kind of not really executed that well, because they had two major plot lines happen that could have been really interesting, but they kind of smashed these two ideas together and it didn't really work. So I guess I better move to my final rating for Punisher 1989. I think I'm going to have to go with a 6 out of 10. A little bit above generic, just because some of the character quirks and some of the dialogue was okay. But action-wise, there are better action movies out there. There are better Punisher stories out there, so you can probably skip this one, definitely, if you were ever wanting to watch it. You could probably skip it and you wouldn't feel any different, except you would lose an hour and a half of your life if you did watch it. Anyway, that's going to do it for this review. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll be continuing Punisher Month.